Welcome to Freedom at the Crossroads. This is Tonya, your host from freedomatthecrossroads.com, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure, and reminding you to be an undomesticated woman. Step into your power, step into who you are, and break the chains, the shackle, break the wheel of O.P.E., also known as other people's expectations. Welcome to a new show, a new day, and we're going to be switching things up today. We're going to be talking about more on self-care because that is what we do talk about, other than breaking the chains and the shackles of O.P.E., which is a huge hindrance and a huge barrier to women's self-care. At least in my experience and in the experience of a lot of women around the world, particularly those cultures that are heavily steeped in patriarchy. Not that the Western world doesn't have the same issue, but in some cultures, particularly in Africa, where I'm from, that O.P.E., that constraint and bondage of patriarchy is still well and in full force and, quite frankly, unapologetic about it. I know most of you have heard the tales of what goes on in Saudi Arabia, where women previously, you could not even drive. And we're talking about 2019. Women did not have the right to drive a car, people. They literally had to, hitch a ride with the male, member of a family or what have you. I know I'm paraphrasing to some extent, but you get the general idea. And, everyone, people, were applauding their finally, the first woman in Saudi Arabia to drive by herself in a car. And, I just thought it was so ridiculous. I was shaking my head. I said, this is what's wrong with the world today. Especially when it comes to women having dominion and breaking silence and taking ownership of their own spaces and their own personhood. But that aside, for anyone who's still confused about what self-care is, let me just give you a little Google dictionary version of what self-care is. Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. It is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. Now, there's also some other definitions where, I'm not one to rely on Wikipedia by any stretch of the imagination. And particularly, I really advise against going to Wikipedia for any kind of hardcore research proof. But just anecdotally, here's their definition of it. In healthcare, self-care is any necessary human regulatory function which is under individual control, deliberate, and self-initiated. Now, key in on those words: individual control, deliberate, and self-initiated. And this is, why I speak so strongly and I'm so passionate about women rising up and empowering themselves through healthcare and breaking the shackles of O.P.E., because necessarily being unable to really invest in one's own self, to really love yourself and really see yourself as a person, a real hindrance has been culture, has been other people's expectations, have been the patriarchal society in which many of us live. You can't escape it regardless of what part of the world that you live in. And it's just now, in these last few years, especially with what's going on politically, with women rising up and being more active, politically, that women are beginning to awaken and break the shackles of, domestication is what I like to call it. And I say domestication because I'm talking about being controlled and dominated by, other people And particular, I'm speaking to dominated by males in society, being seen as a secondary citizen, being viewed as, not being worth as much as a man in society. And you see this all over the world. You see this here in the US, where even women's integrity is not valued as much as the integrity of a man. And, hence, the, preponderance of rape culture here in the West, where, the victim of a sexual assault, particularly women, the onus is on the victim to prove that they were victimized. How crazy and unjust is that? And what does that say about our society? It says that we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do as individuals, and we have a lot of work to do culturally and as human beings. Now, when I speak about self-care on the larger front, I see self-care as a vehicle to empower women, because when you do the work internally, when you love yourself, when you value yourself, when you take ownership of your own personhood, of your own sacred space, of your own of your own body, when you begin to establish boundaries and say, hey, these are my boundaries. This is what I accept. This is what I do not accept. This is my sacred space. When you define those areas, when you force, if necessary, other people to respect your own boundaries, to respect your own personhood, you elevate your own value. You begin to recognize and tie in and connect and become grounded with who you are as a person. You begin to see that, yes, I am worthy. Yes, it is my right as a human being. Yes, I bring gifts from the universe to this plane of existence. Yes, yes, yes. I am she. I am a person. I am powerful. This is me. And I have a voice, and I speak, and I manifest. And when you practice self-care, when you begin to practice self-care, when you embark on a self-care journey as a woman, our particular journeys are unique as individuals and as women, because historically, I hark back to this all the time, because although we live in a high-tech era, and, a lot of breakthroughs have been made and women have made so many strides as a group, there are still a lot of areas that women are struggling in, that we are fighting against. And, one of those areas has to do with breaking silence around rape culture. It has to do with breaking silence about personhood and taking dominion of our own bodies. What has been a real divisive argument, and actually I believe it's going to play out even more politically as we go into 2020 here in the US with the upcoming elections and the staggering amount of female contenders for presidency. This is even, all the ugliness is even going to spill out even more. And I'm talking about the quote unquote so-called, pro-life versus pro-choice movement. And the reality of it is, regardless of how you feel about the notion of abortion rights, the real issue, that's a straw man. The real issue is about personhood of women and who has dominion over our own bodies. Is it us, the women, the owners of these bodies, or is it society that is dominated by patriarchy? And I believe these questions will be answered as our political activism really comes into full force. But I will say this. I have my own opinions of abortion rights and what I believe is right and what are the proper circumstances for quote unquote abortion. I will say this though. Why is it that powerful men believe it is their right to tell us what we can do with our bodies? Who can come into our bodies? Who can occupy our space? Because that's really what it's about. And that's what is angering and really activating a number of women, particularly the young generation, to rise up and break the silence, because enough is enough. Women are dying because of lack of adequate health care. Women are dying because of O.P.E, being made to feel guilty about putting your own health and well-being first. Because let us be real. Let us look at it from a clinical standpoint. In every arena, you see the logic here. You cannot help anybody. You cannot meet anybody else's needs or attempt to do so or do for other people if you yourself are empty, if you are yourself are worn out, tired, and sick. Let's take case in point. A flight attendant shows you what are in emergency situations, this is what you do. And one of the primary things they tell you to do in the event that you lose cabin pressure and air supply, what do? You grab the mask and put the oxygen mask and put it on yourself first, regardless of the fact that somebody else next to you, a child or elderly person, is not able to do for themselves. You have to first address you before you can help them. Because you're not going to be successful at aiding their survival if you yourself cannot save yourself. So why are we allowing as women ourselves to be manipulated and domesticated into thinking that drying ourselves up and stretching and killing ourselves and moving in ridiculous circles, trying to serve, quote unquote, other people and other things, if we ourselves are not healthy, if we ourselves are stressed out, worn out, torn out, spinning on that hamster wheel going nowhere? Ladies, please help me answer that question. Because women continue to come at me with, I'm tired. Where am I going to find the time to take care of me? Where am I going to find the time to take care of myself? I feel guilty, just thinking about, self-care in those terms. Why? And so when I see all of these commercials and quote unquote, fitness gurus talking about, you can do a workout like this, like that, you take this diet, take this pill and XYZ, I'm like, all of that is pointless, useless, and it's all a bunch of lies, because the real issue is internal. If you don't value yourself, if you don't see yourself as an individual who is worth taking care of, if you don't see yourself as a human being that is worthy of basic human decency and consideration, if you don't see yourself as valuable, the next diet, the next vegan detox, the next fitness gadget is not going to change your life. It's not going to transform your waistline sustainably, is not going to transform your mindset, is not going to do anything for you that is truly successful result wise, that will truly transform your life and state of mind, that will truly make you grounded and feeling whole and fulfilled as a human being, as a woman, outside of all of this crazy. And so I've gotten away from, as a women's fit lifestyle coach and strategist, I've got away from focusing in on diets and exercise regimes and move to personal development and self-empowerment, and then fitness and your diet and all of that are just tools and on the journey to empowerment. Because when I believe that a woman that is truly empowered she is confident, she is secure, she is undomesticated, she has boundaries, and yes, she is loving because she loves herself. She's not stressed out. She is not torn apart, and she's not desperately depressed or feeling shackled and bound. And when you achieve that, weight loss, lifestyle, all of that begins to fall into alignment. When you're not overstressed, when you're not feeling bound and shackled, those dependencies on fad diets, those things go away. The bloating and weight gain, that goes away as you begin to reduce your stress level and dependency on outside things to address internal issues. And we live in a society where our medical system is terribly broken. Our medical system, and I've said this before, our healthcare system here, particularly in the U.S., is broken because it does not seek to address the real underlying issues of sickness, of disease, of stress, and factors that increase your propensity towards disease and health issues. And self-care is one of those arenas, and it's very complex. And I could argue and say that, that's part of the problem. When you deny the issue, all you want to do is medicate the symptoms. So we've got a lot of work to do as a society, as a culture, but it starts with us as individuals. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping women everywhere break the shackles and chains of O.P.E, because it begins there. It truly does begin there. I can attest to it. I've seen it in my own life personally. I've seen it generationally in my family. And I've talked to I don't know how many women about the same thing. And they've got the same damn issues. So ladies, it's time to let the goddess awaken. Break the chains and shackles of O.P.E. Break the wheel. The huntress is rising, and she's coming for you. This is Tonya from Freedom at the Crossroads, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure. Breaking the wheel, breaking the shackles of O.P.E. Till next time, ladies.